Welcome back to Gaming Top Down. Today I'm going to be continuing my video series going over every game in my collection by the letter that the game starts with. I'm then breaking them down further into different categories. Unplayed games, games I'm thinking of purging, if they're going to deliver soon, and then which games are my favorite that start with that letter. Today we're going over the letter F, and this is going to be a long one, so buckle in and let's get started. Okay, first up I have one upcoming game. This one is called Frog Chess, and it's coming in a 2-player abstract bundle that I have from a small company in, I believe, Boise, Idaho. It's a part of an add-on that you can get on the Wrestling Cubes Kickstarter page. Yeah, I really like 2-player abstract games, so I'm kind of taking a chance on this add-on series. This Frog Chess version looks like you're playing some sort of checkers / chess variant with these frog pieces. I'm guessing there's lots of hopping involved, but we will see. So that is Frog Chess for upcoming games. For games that I haven't played yet, there's quite a few. We're going to start with a couple from Button Shy Games. The first one is called Fruition, and this is kind of a larger group game for 3 to 6 players, and it's, I believe, a word game where you'll flip over a couple of cards. One will have some categories, and another one will have the letter that you're using, and you have to combine them with those categories. I don't know how scoring works or anything like that, but if you like word games, this is one you can fit in your pocket. And we'll see. Hopefully it is a good time. That is Fruition. Next up is one I do think I will really enjoy. It's called Fishing Lessons. And this is kind of a light programming card game. You're trying to move your ship maybe isn't the right word, your little fishing boat from left to right in this little row of cards to catch certain fish. And then I believe you have to end the game at the dock as well. So it's all about positioning and getting the fish that you need. I think there's a bunch of different characters you can play with and a couple expansions with more fish in there. So Fishing Lessons, I am excited to try that one out. Next up is kind of a party game with light social deduction. This is A Fake Artist Goes to New York. It comes in this teeny tiny box from Oink Games. Their most popular game recently was Scout. In this one, you play with, 5 to 10 players, and everyone will be drawing a picture together. And everyone except for one person will know what the picture is supposed to be. It might be, an elephant. And so you take turns drawing one line in the picture, and the person that doesn't know what the word is has to try and blend in and also figure out what the item is so that they can fake their way through. And the other players are trying to figure out who the faker is. So I think that will be fun. It's a fun kind of artistic play on something like Pictionary mixed with social deduction games. So A Fake Artist Goes to New York. Next up is a very popular game right now. I just got it. It's called Far Away from Pandasaurus and Johannes Guppy and Corentin Lebre. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And Maxime Morin. This one, like I said, very popular right now. It's a card game that plays in about 20 to 30 minutes. And you are playing, I believe, 8 rounds, and in each round you play a card from left to right. And you can only play them if you meet some specific requirements. And then at the end of the game, you will score them in reverse from right to left. So it's kind of a unique mechanism as far as you have to think forwards and backwards for scoring. And yeah, I really hope that I will like this one. I love games that come in a smaller box and that have just enough depth that they will make it to the table often because they're short, but give you some good decisions and aren't, just something too simple that will play itself. So I'm excited to play Far Away soon. Next up is Floriferous from Pencil First Games. Very pretty game here. I don't even know how to play yet. but this, I believe, is one of their more well-liked in their line of games. So I am excited to play it. I think it's a pretty relaxing drafting game, if I remember correctly, where you're trying to draft the best flowers mainly with some other scoring cards. The 20-minute playtime is very intriguing to me, so I'm excited to try that one out. That is Floriferous. Next up, one that I didn't think I would like because of the weird theme, but it's First Rat. And I haven't got this one to the table yet, but I have read the rule book, and I did have it set up for one game night, but then the game night got canceled. So it's kind of just a series of unfortunate events that caused me to not be able to play it yet. But it's a pretty simple game, but it had quite a bit of buzz for being, a family game where you are moving, which kind of gives you that roll and move feel, which most people do not like nowadays. But the way that you move is very unique in that I think you can move 2 mice, like 1 or 2 spots, or a single mouse, a bunch of spots. And then there's a bunch of tracks you're trying to manage, and you can work on just building up the spacecraft, and whoever contributes a bunch up there will get points. Or you can work on kind of these tracks at the bottom. So a very lighthearted theme, but it's supposed to be a really good time. So I'm excited to try First Rat. Next up is another game in the Legends of D6 print and play roll and write series, which is a series that's really great. And this one is called Fairy Fair, and another one I haven't been able to play yet. In this one, you're building a fairground here by drawing out these different pieces based on what you roll. Looks like you're also launching off fireworks and have to manage kind of a time track. Again, I really like these. They have all the rules over here. You play the game over here, and they're generally pretty simple, but give you some good decisions. And I love in a roll and write game when I get to write everywhere, and it looks very unique from play to play. So I am excited to try this one out. That is Fairy Fair. Okay, next up is Flashpoint Fire Rescue. This is a co-op game. In a lot of co-op games, it's generally referred to as you're running around putting out fires as fast as you can so that you don't lose. And I think this one is that, and is literally that, because you play as fireworkers. That's not the right word, firefighters, running around trying to put out fires. And if you do, you will win together. But if you don't, you will lose together. So I'm very hit or miss with co-op games, but and I think this one's been around for a long time. It was actually gifted to me from a friend. So I am excited to try it. We'll see if it's one that will stay in the collection or not. That is Flashpoint Fire Rescue. And last up in my Unplayed Games segment is, I think, my most recent acquisition for the letter F, Fall of the Mountain King. This is kind of a complex game where you are trying to defeat all of the gnomes that are raiding kind of your caves. And it has a lot going on. You're building a tableau of cards that are your ancestry cards that let you do actions. You might get a peek at the bottom of some of those gnome pieces, which are nice big wooden tokens, to see their strength. And that can give you an advantage over your opponents. And you're kind of all trying to clear the board, but this isn't a co-op game. It's about getting the most points, and so you're trying to be more efficient and better than the other players. You also get these cool hero pieces some of them will also come out on the board. And yeah, a lot going on in this one. This is the retail version, but the components are very nice. I imagine the Kickstarter version with the super premium components was even better. Had plastic miniatures, but I really like the wooden meeples in this game, so I went for the retail version. That is Fall of the Mountain King. Kind of a complex, heavy game, but I am excited to play it. All right, next for the games I'm thinking of purging. A few of these are definitely in between the Purge and favorites categories. I'll talk about them when I get there, but some of them I'm still unsure of. First is For the King and Me, and if I'm not mistaken, this is kind of a re-theme with a couple very slight rule changes to a popular game called Biblios. And I've only played it once so far, and it seemed like the four of us that played didn't fully understand how to manipulate the kind of economy of the game. You're trying to raise or lower the value of these different kind of houses of this court. And then if you have a lot of influence or cards in of that suit at the end of the game for a house that has a high value, get a lot of points. So it seemed like we were just randomly kind of doing things. One person would focus on red, and then someone else would drop the value of red a whole bunch. So we weren't exactly sure how best to manipulate that market. But I do want to give it a couple more shots because I know that there are a lot of reviewers that I trust that really love Biblios. So I feel like this one deserves another shake from me. So that is For the King and Me. Next up is a very simple game that I've only played with my kids, but they enjoyed it. It's called Final Touch. I got it for just a couple of dollars. And it's a fairly simple but kind of fun card game. You're trying to make these sets of cards to complete paintings. And you can, if you are the last person to put a card on that completes the set, then you get the painting. Or you can put on like the wrong color and, kind of destroy the painting so that someone else doesn't get the points. So a little bit of take that and set collection in there. Pretty simple game. Like I said, we played it with our 5 and 7-year-old. And they liked it. So I think we'll keep it for a little bit longer, but I don't think it has much staying power beyond that, in my opinion. That is Final Touch. Next up, a pretty simple dice game that I got a long time ago. Farkle, the classic dice rolling, risk-taking game. You're basically rolling dice and deciding how much to push your luck, and whoever gets the most points doing so wins. I think I might keep it if I just take it out of this box. The box is bigger than the game inside is for sure. So if I can rebox it into something smaller, maybe it can stay on the shelf as like a super introduction into dice rolling and push your luck games. But we'll see. If I decide that's not worth the effort, then it might have to go. So that is Farkle. Next up is, again, another game we've played mostly with our kids. That is Forbidden Bridge. And this one is very much kind of got the toy factor element here. You are rolling dice and moving your character, and then some event might happen based on the dice that you rolled. First person to get up the Forbidden Bridge, steal a jewel, and get back down, and then up the bridge again, steal a second jewel, and get back down with both of them, and escape kind of up the river on their boat wins. But, loud box, as you are going across this bridge, if the die lands on the symbol with this, kind of statue head, then you press down on the top of it, and that bridge shakes back and forth. And if your person falls off the bridge, then you have to start back wherever they land. And so you're trying to move strategically across the bridge so that you can hook their feet into these little hooks. Some spots don't have hooks, some do. Sometimes you'll get lucky and they'll stay on the bridge when they clearly shouldn't have. Sometimes you'll get unlucky and they'll fall off when it seemed like they shouldn't have. So it's really just a luck fest. But the toy factor element, my kids at least, have enjoyed quite a bit. Again, got this one at Target for like $5. So it was definitely worth a few plays at that price. But given how giant the box is, it's definitely not on my shelf. It's kind of on the kids' shelf in the laundry room, and that's where it will have to stay or have to go. So that was Forbidden Bridge. Staying on the Forbidden theme, we've got Forbidden Desert, and this is a solid game. I think its influence, on co-op gaming can't be overstated. And I don't even think this is the first one. Forbidden Island is actually the first one. But this is the one I have, Forbidden Desert. It's slightly more complex than Forbidden Island. It's a cooperative game where you are trying to move through the desert and find all of these pieces of this kind of flying ship in time so you can fly out of the desert and not die in the desert. And on basically every turn, sandstorms will come in and raise kind of the level of the sand here. And if the sand gets too high, then I think you lose. And if you run out of water, then you lose. Again, it kind of falls into that cooperative vein that we talked about with Flashpoint, of putting out fires all over the board together and collecting things together. I think it's pretty fun to play a couple of times, but like I mentioned, I'm very picky with co-op games, and this one seems like it might be time for it to go, even though it was one of the first games that I got, and it kind of has a nostalgia factor for me, but yeah, I don't think I'll play it very often. So that is Forbidden Desert. Next up is one I got pretty recently, and I've only played once. It's called Fae. Very unique game. I really like the art and the pieces in this game. Very colorful and whimsical, kind of about magic and things like that. And it plays very quickly. It says 20 minutes on the box, and that's probably right. In this game, you are moving druids from location to location, and if ever they are completely isolated, then that group scores. The tricky part is each player has a card that only they have seen, so they are wanting a certain color of druid to win and score the most points. But you don't want to be too obvious about what you're moving and trying to score, or else everyone will know what you're doing. That's a fun aspect, and I thought it worked pretty well. Again, after just one play, we were struggling to grok the strategy. But I think with a couple more, maybe we will. A thin box, so it fits on the shelf pretty well, and I think it does deserve a couple more plays, but that is Fae. Alrighty. Next up are two that I think are right in between the Purge and favorites categories. The first one is called Fox in the Forest, and this one I was thinking of getting rid of, but I've started to really like trick-taking games lately, so I think it is one I want to play again. This is a two-player only trick-taking game, which is unique because most trick-taking games have to be played with more than two. It has really pretty art, and kind of the cards let you do some cool things. And so I think I will like it a lot more playing it now. I think it's probably been over 3 years since I played it, and me and my wife were pretty new to trick-taking, and we were a little lost. But anyways, that's the Fox in the Forest. I'm excited to give that one another shot. And last up in this section is one, again, I've only played once. It's a big, big game, From the Moon, from a French company, La Butte des Jeux. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. It's a cool sci-fi game. I thought it was maybe a little long, but again, that might just be because it was our first play. And I wasn't sure if the asymmetric factions were cool as I wanted them to be. But there's a lot going on in this game. You are trying to gather resources from the moon to send these different generation ships out to different places in the solar system to save humanity. And you have these different specialists, and you will place them inside of rovers, and the rovers are your workers that you place out. So you get to specialize your worker. You could put 3 blue ones in there that focus on water, or the different resources of the game. It has these cool dual layer boards where you track how much energy you have and have used, and everything slots in really nicely. So I think it's very cool aesthetically. I just need to play it a couple more times to kind of finalize my thoughts on the gameplay mechanics. So again, that one kind of sits between Purge and favorites, where it could go either way, and I'm hoping it goes the way of really loving it. That is From the Moon. All right, and last up is my favorite games that start with the letter F. There are a lot of these, so I'm going to go pretty quickly. So let's hop in. First game from Button Shy Games. This is Food Chain Island. I also have the expansion collection, and this one you make a little grid of cards, and each card has a number and an animal on it, and you're trying to kind of activate the food chain by having the cards eat each other. and hopefully consolidate all of those cards into a single card. But each animal eats the numbers that are 1, 2, or 3 less than its value, but they also have some special action that must be done when you eat an animal with them, and some of them make it very tricky to complete that task, and some of them are helpful. So it's all kind of a spatial puzzle about that, having the animals eat each other. There's a couple like one-time use cards that you can play with if you want to that help out with that, and then the expansions add some more animals and setups as well. Food Chain Island, I think, is my favorite game from Button Shy. It's a really solid one. Really fits in that, like, carry it around in your pocket, play it in 10 minutes, wherever you are kind of vibe. So really like Food Chain Island. Next up is a party game. Party might not be the right word. Kind of a word game that you can play with 2 people, or you can play with really as many as you want. Very similar to Wordle in that one person selects a 5-letter word, and then the rest of the players are trying to guess that word by submitting guesses back to the librarian. The twist on Wordle here is that after the players submit their guess, the librarian will answer just like in Wordle. If it's a correct letter in the correct spot with a check mark, correct letter but not in the right spot with a squiggly, or not in the word at all with this X. But one of their 5 clues back to you will always be a lie. They must lie on one of them. So you're trying to catch them in their lie to really lock down on letters. Focusing on vowels first has really helped. So a little tricky to, it's not too tricky to teach, but it's a little tricky for players that have played Wordle to understand what that one lie really does to the strategy in Wordle, because it changes it quite a bit. But once you've played a round or two, I think it's really fun. Fiction is really great. It's a really small box from All Play. Really recommend Fiction. Next up is Forest Shuffle. This is a game I've primarily played just with my wife at 2 players, and it's a very fun card game. You're trying to build a forest of cards, and you'll be playing tree cards out in front of you, and then animal cards and plant cards to the right, left, top, and bottom of those trees. And how they're scoring combos together across trees and animals is kind of the name of this game, where you're trying to get as many points as you can from those different combos. There's also this central area of up to like 8 cards, I believe, and you can take cards from that central area, and whenever you play a card down, it'll have a cost up here in the top left, and you have to discard that many cards from your hand to the central area to play that card down. And so you'll be discarding to an area that your opponent will be able to take cards from. And so that push and pull of, you do have to watch what your opponent's doing if you want to do well in this game, is really fun. I want to try it at 3, 4, and 5, but at 2 players, it's very, very fun. I also just got the Alpine expansion for this game. I have a very short unboxing for it up on the channel if you want to see that. So I'm excited to see what new strategies that opens up. It's only 36 new cards, but yeah, we'll see how that changes Forest Shuffle up. Very good card game, Forest Shuffle. Okay, next, that was loud. Next up is a solo only game that I have really enjoyed. I really like horror, and so the theme kind of carries this one here for me. It's called Final Girl, and in this game you play as the final girl, and you're trying to defeat kind of the villain, the boss of the scenario. The cool part about this game is you buy these like VHC looking packs, and you have to have the core pack that has like all the base rules in it, and then you can buy as many of these kind of episode packs as you want, and each one comes with a new location and a new villain, and you can mix and match the final girls, the locations, and the villains. And so I only have 3 sets, and there's probably like 20 now. But even with these 3 sets, I've got, I don't know, a bunch. I think each set comes with 2 final girls and a villain, and then the base set comes with a couple final girls. So I've got like 8 final girls, 3 or 4 different locations and I think 4 different villains. So there's quite a bit of variety here. In the game, you'll be moving your final girl or kind of around the map, trying to save other innocent victims from getting killed by the villain. And if you do, that helps you out a lot because every time they kill someone, they get a lot stronger. So you're trying to manage your hand of cards to help you with that goal of defeating them before you die. Very much a good game, but if you really like horror movies like I do, I think that takes it up to the next level because there isn't a ton of games in that genre. So that is Final Girl. I should mention that game is solo only, primarily. You could play it with another person, but you'd just be making the decisions together. Next up is Fit to Print from Flat Out Games, and this is a real-time game that I think is really fun. Every player is trying to make kind of a newspaper for this world of animals, and you want your newspaper to score as many points as possible. The one kind of tricky part of this game is teaching all of the scoring possibilities of the newspaper because you don't want it to be too happy or too sad. Generally, if you have too many sad articles, then you get negative points, I believe. You also have to have advertisements in your newspaper, and if you don't have advertisements, whoever has the fewest ads at the end of the game automatically loses because they went out of business and didn't have enough ad revenue. And like pictures can't be right next to each other, and so it's all about the spatial element here. In the first few minute of the round, you'll be taking articles from these tiles that might be articles or pictures or ads from the central area and putting them on your desk and as like a representation of the editor's desk. And then once you feel like you have enough to fill the newspaper, I think you say some word like publish or something, and then you have to organize them on the newspaper and you can't go back to taking more. And if you took too many, each one that you took is like a negative point, and if you didn't take enough, you'll leave too much blank space, which also isn't good. It's very tricky to do perfect at this game. You have to just be okay with a little bit of messiness and blank space, because if things are touching that shouldn't be touching, they will also be removed. And so it's more about, okay, I took too many, I'm going to have a few negative points. What's the best I can do with what I took? Or I didn't take enough. What's the best with what I can take? But it's very fun. Plays in like half an hour. You play 3 rounds that are 4 minutes each, with a little bit of upkeep between each one. And yeah, if you like real-time games and also like kind of spatial puzzles with tiles, then I think you'll like Fit to Print. Okay, next up is Flamecraft, which I went back and forth on. After the first couple plays, I thought, I think this game is too simple and doesn't have enough variability for me, but I've played it a couple more times recently, and I think my opinion may have gone up on the game and changed just slightly. I do think that playing with the kind of companions expansion, mini expansion, that I think is just included even in the retail version, helps a lot because you get to use that that companion one time during the entire game, and it can turn like one of your turns into a killer turn, which I thought really helped kind of stretch what you're able to do. In this game, you're sending out your dragons to the different shops of this town to try to either get resources from the shop or to enchant the shop and make the shop better. And you'll put these enchantment cards behind the shop so that when people visit it later, they'll get more resources from it. This is you don't block each other with the workers that you place, but if you go to a shop with another player at it, you do have to give them one resource. And so the interaction in this game is generally positive. You're making shops better for everyone. If I go to a shop you're at, then I have to give you something. So there's not like a lot of hurt feelings or anything in this game. And it's very pretty. I do have the premium version with the metal coins and the extra shop cards and the deluxe wooden resource components. Plays in about an hour. I think it's solid. I think my opinion of it might waver a little bit more, and I'm still kind of nailing it down. But I do think it's a very solid game, especially the retail version. Even I've played and is very, very pretty still. So you don't have to pony up for the metal coins and everything to have the game still look very, very pretty. So that is Flamecraft. Next up is a solo-only game that I've had for a long time. Very hard, in my opinion, but it's very good. It's Friday, and it's a deck-building game where you are trying to help this kind of clumsy dude survive on this island that he has crashed on. And you do that by getting new cards in your deck, and you have to fight like the animals on the island, and eventually I think you have to fight like some pirates at the end of the scenario to win. Like I said, very difficult, and I think there are even like different pirate like end bosses that you can play with if you want to up the difficulty after you've won a few times. I do think it's really fun. You can lose pretty quickly though in this game as you're getting up to speed with the rules. But Friday is a very solid solo game. Comes in a very small box, so Friday is a good one. Next up is a roll and write game that does have a retail version, but I just bought the print and play version and laminated it here. And let's see, it goes like this. This one has 2 sheets, and it's a little more complex than most roll and write games, but it's really fun. In this game, you play not with dice, but with a hand of cards, and you just play with a standard deck of cards, and you'll put down 3 cards each turn. One will determine the suit of your turn, one will determine the value of your turn, and one will be the card that goes into your poker hand for the round. And then based on what suit you chose, you might go over to the Badlands or to the trail or to town or the cemetery, and you're managing your gold and your cash and stars or points, and you can't get too wanted with the sheriff or else that'll be bad for you at the end of the round. It's very fun. I think this is an excellent, I guess it would be a flip and write game, but yeah, I really like that you're able to just play with a standard deck of cards and these sheets, and then just a few like objective cards that I just printed off and put in some card sleeves. So if you want to try this one out, you can get the print and play version for just a few dollars, or you can check out the retail version. But Fliptown is very good. Really recommend that one. Next up is one of the first games I got in my collection. It is 5 Tribes from Days of Wonder and Bruno Cathala. And yeah, this game is really cool. It's the first game that I had ever seen to use the Mancala mechanism, where you pick up a bunch of things, and then from that starting spot, you drop 1 on every spot to your ending spot, and wherever you end, you get to do something there. This game is a little tricky at first, because you'll just see a bunch of different colored pieces on the map, and you need to be able to puzzle out like what the best move is for you. Like if I pick up these 3, I could get them over here, and if I drop a red one there, what does it do? You also have to auction for turn order, and turn order can be very important in the game. So this one is kind of a medium weight game, but it's really, really great. Lots of different strategies. You can just focus on getting goods from the market. You can get a ton of points from getting complete sets there. You can focus on kind of befriending these djinns, or we usually call them genies, but they let you kind of break the game with some special rules. Or you can just, focus on not spending your money for turn order, saving your money because there will be points at the end of the game, and just taking big turns out here. The 5 different colors of meeples all do different things. So yeah, a little bit tricky to teach, and for new players to be able to visually understand what is going on the board, since there's a lot of pieces and colors going on. But 5 Tribes is just, it's excellent. Yeah, if you if you like games that take a little more thinking, can be a little analysis paralysis prone because of that, but it's really solid. So that is 5 Tribes. All right, just a couple more here. One of my more recent acquisitions, I think in January, is Fractured Sky. And this is a very fun game, very beautiful and pretty game. The components are awesome. You got some nice big ship pieces and magnet pieces, and they're not shown here on the box really, but just trust me, the components in this game are excellent. In this game, you are trying to get the most of these starfall pieces, and you'll probably win if you get like 7 or 8 of them. And each round, there will be a few of them up for grabs, but only one of them will be like a known where it is. There's 10 different locations on the board, and so you'll know where one of them is, and you have to spend resources to peek at different cards to figure out where the other ones are so that you know how many of your troops to send to which locations. So it's all about secret information, a little bit of bluffing, and deciding how many troops you're going to send to the different spots. And you only have 3 ships each round to send out. And the number of troops that you send out are on these little plastic pieces, and they magnet to the bottom of your player ships so that the number stays hidden, but everyone can still see where you put your ship. The components really help with the gameplay in that way, in my opinion. Really great player trays that keep everything organized. I think this game is really great. There is a tiny bit of luck in the game because there is some information that's just not known. And so you can sometimes luck into a point or two, or accidentally luck out of a point or two. And since you usually win the game, like I mentioned, with 7 to 8 of these starfalls, a point or two is kind of a big swing. So you have to be okay with a little bit of that, but that kind of comes with the territory when you've got a bunch of hidden information and everyone can't know everything. So that is Fractured Sky. All right, and last up is one of the biggest and heaviest games I have in my collection. Got it a long, long time ago. This is A Feast for Odin. This is a very big game. The first time me and my wife played it, it took 4 hours for us to play. I was kind of a noob to gaming at that point, so don't blame me too much for that. But in this game, you are kind of in control of, what would that be called? Not a troop, but like a clan of Vikings, and you're trying to be the most successful Viking clan that you can. But you can do so many different things in this game. That's kind of the tricky teaching part of this game, is just the wide number of options that you have. You could focus heavily on exploring and explore a bunch of different islands. You could focus on farming and breeding your animals. You can focus on whaling or hunting or pillaging. There's kind of, the world is your oyster in this game, and you can really do whatever you want. There's also this element of the things that you collect, you have to put on your board, starting in the bottom left corner and working up to the top right corner. And you really want to cover up as many of these spots as you can, because each one that's uncovered will be -1 point at the end of the game. So whether you're whaling or focusing on farming or whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that you're getting stuff that you can put in kind of your Viking coffers. So anyways, a very well-loved game from Uwe Rosenberg. A Feast for Odin is last here on my list of games that start with the letter F. Whew, that was a long video. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to check out the other videos I have in this series and the rest of the content that I have here on Gaming Top Down. I do unboxings and reviews and other fun stuff. Make sure to check out our monthly giveaway. Link should be in the description for that, and I will see you on the next video when we talk about the letter G. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.